All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming and joining. If you're joining virtually, watching the recording, thank you so much. Mascot for this evening is Valentine, and we have a froggy mascot in one of the boxes, which you won't be able to see, but people are now bringing their own mascots. You need to find all the joy you can during this heat wave and all the other fun going on in the world. For props tonight, 2 blocks or 2 stacks of books to begin with, one slightly higher than the other. That folded blanket to sit up on if that's something that you like and you find that's usable and helpful, as well as possibly a strap or a belt if you don't have anything else, like a yoga strap. You don't need a fancy yoga strap. All right. So tonight I'm going to go with the idea of Om. So I don't do a lot of chanting, but Om has 4 parts to it. Some people think it just has the 3, the sounds, and Om is supposed to be this perfect sound of the universe that allows you to connect with all of the universe and its higher beings. So when you chant Om, when you go into the idea of Om, it gives you this place of higher and absolute connection, and my camera is just not in the right spot, is it? So even using the idea of Om and its 4 parts, we're going to take that into all of our shapes tonight. A beginning, a middle, and an ending, and a place for silence, a place for reflection, a place for a pause. So taking that idea of the whole chant of Om. So tonight, as we settle in with our breath work, we are going to settle in with an Om. So if you're not comfortable Oming, that's fine. You could hum through your throat, just a Maybe you like to say amen. Maybe you want to hum out loud, hum, hum, hum. So whatever you're comfortable with. But the vibration can be really good and powerful within your own body and your own being. So just finding a comfortable seat. If you want to lay down, you can even do it lying down. You could place your hands on your abdomen and feel the vibration, or your hands in your heart, or even around your throat. I used to always tell the kids that I worked with, place it around wherever you have fun feeling that vibration that allows you to connect. So as we're settling in, we're going to take just a regular round of breath, and then we're going to Om. So find your seat. Just take an inhale. Exhale, let it go. And we're going to inhale for Om. So take an inhale. We have those 4 parts there, that ah, ooh, and then a time of silence, a pause, a reflection, a place of connection. So as you begin to settle in from your own, begin to notice how you've already shifted, and it changes how you feel in your being and your body. Find another breath. Take an inhale. Just let it go. Notice how the body feels tonight, the physical being. Anything feel tight, tense? Allowing the breath to go there and soften just a little more. Take another cleansing breath here. Inhale. And just let it out. Beginning to notice the mind. Is it busy? Is it buzzing? Is it full? Invitation on the next round of breath is to soften just a little bit more in the mind. Take that deep inhale and just let it go. Then become aware of the heart space. Feel free to leave the hands where they are. If you'd like to physically connect, you could bring the hands to prayer pose, Anjali Mudra. You could place a hand right on the chest and another one on top of that, allowing you to connect in any organic way. Feel the chest rise and fall. Notice how the heart beats here. As you begin to connect with your own heart space, taking this pause here, begin to pull in an intention, weaving it into this heartbeat, this rise and this fall, and this circle of energy. Maybe weave in an intention for our time together. Maybe it's for the week. Maybe it's for something going on in your life. Whatever you'd like to bring in, begin to allow that to grow. We'll take a collective breath for intention. Take a deep inhale. Open the mouth, release it out. Allowing that intention to grow even larger than your physical being. Take 3 more soft rounds of breath, bringing in and letting go of anything that you need. When you're ready in your own time, slowly begin to come back. When you're ready, we're going to find our first shape. So you're going to take those stacks of books. The one underneath your head is going to be slightly higher, or the block that you place under your head. You can also do this with a rolled blanket, or you can place a blanket or a towel on the blocks or the books if you find them uncomfortable. So they're going to make a T. So the ones going down your spine are going the length of the spine. Nothing goes below those bottom ribs, so it's got to stay higher than that. So you're going to come down, and tonight either you'll have feet on the earth, soles of feet together and let the knees fall out, or if you feel flexible, then ankles stack, and you can have fire logs, palms face up. So this is your heart bench to just settle in. So your chin should be slightly tipping towards your chest. So you can play with the height that you need these books to be. All you're shooting for is that the one underneath your head is just slightly higher to get a slight tip of the chin towards the chest. That can be accomplished in any way that you need that is comfortable on your back and your body. Then come back to that idea of Om. That idea of having that beginning, that middle, ooh, that ending, and then that beautiful pause, that place of connection. Maybe humming that first sound, this internal sound of the universe as you settle in, gathering breath deeply and release. Inhale once again and just let go. A little bit on Om, creation of the universe according to sound. Science tells us that the universe began with a Big Bang, whereas Vedanta says that the Big Bang is actually a big Om, which didn't just happen once, it is ongoing. In fact, if the Om stopped for even a microsecond, the whole universe as we know it would disappear instantly. Om rises from pure consciousness, which is primary and underlies all existence, constantly unfolding as our experience of the universe. Imagine, if you can, a time before the universe existed. Imagine a field of pure consciousness and eternal silence, not an empty silence, but one filled with the potential for everything. At some point, pure consciousness decided it wanted to have an experience, but as nothing else existed, it could only experience itself. Because all experiences are based on contrast, pure consciousness had to move within itself to experience itself. Now, movement creates friction, and friction creates noise. So pure consciousness experienced itself, created a sound. However, pure consciousness, by definition, is silent. So this sound, which was Om, had to be forced out of the silence and became what we call conditioned consciousness. Om is what we experience as the universe we live in. Begin to find that middle hum, moving from that beginning point to the middle. Maybe allowing some vibration and consciousness to exist within you. I love to watch how birds soar on the wind. There appears to be such little effort, yet such joy. I want to become like a bird and let my spirit soar on the winds that are blowing through my life. I will not be crushed against the rocks. I will sense the rhythm, the flow, and react accordingly. I will trust my inner guide. J. Garrett Garrison and S. Shepherd. Naomi Shihab Nye writes, for the first time on the road north of Tampico, I felt life sliding out of me, a drum in the desert, harder and harder to hear. I was 7. I lay in the car watching palm trees swirl a sickening pattern past the glass. My stomach was a melon split wide inside my skin. How do you know if you're going to die? I begged my mother. We had been traveling for days. With strange confidence, she answered, when you can no longer make a fist. Years later, I smile to think of that journey, the borders we must cross separately, stamped with our unanswerable woes. I, who did not die, who am still living, still lying in the back seat behind all my questions, clenching and opening one small hand. begin to move to that find that ending vibration. And as that vibration leaves you, finding that pause of silence. Gather the breath deeply and release. Inhale once again. Just let go. Ready, slowly finding your way up out of this shape. Pressing the arms down to help you lift up. When you come to seated, maybe you need a cow cat. You could bring the feet to the outer edges of the mat and let the knees fall side to side. Finding what you need as this release. And then finding the pause, finding the stillness. Just noticing what has already come up, what has already shifted, noticing without judgment. Slowly begin to come back. Our next shape will be Dragonfly. So the legs will be open wide. And then we'll hinge forward. So you can take the stacks of books, you can place the elbows on them, and you can place your forehead in the heels of the hands. You can just fold forward. If all you're doing is rounding in your back, this is a great place to take that blanket and sit up on the edge so that the hips and the pelvis shift forward a little bit more than just the rounding of the back. If there's any pain in the hamstrings, you can make that be smaller and find a little bend in the legs and prop up underneath the knees. So anything that works for you, and I always forget to say, like, if you need the chat box at the bottom because things are not making sense or not working, or feel free to unmute yourself and let me know so I can help you get into something that feels accessible. And then gather that breath deeply and release. Inhale once again and just let go. And bringing that idea of Om this evening, understanding things, having that beginning, a middle, an end, and that pause of reflection, connection, of reset. How does your Om begin here? How do things resonate for you as you enter into something? Is it challenging? Do you find it easy? Does it always depend on the scenario? Morgan Harper Nichols writes, "No matter where the journey takes you, light will lead you through. Let this be your morning song, for it is far too easy to feel alone out here, in crowded subways and highways and trafficked walkways. They all have a way of reminding you of everyone who has moved on so quickly without you. But no matter who stays or who walked away, remember all the things they taught you. Remember the paths and the tunnels and you have traveled through. You learn to see shapes within the shadows. You learn to find the window and wait for the birds of the new day to sing, to remind you of all that is changing." Look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light, are giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails first pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this, the fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends upon it, and when the time comes, to let it go. Let it go. Mary Oliver. You begin to find the idea of the middle, going for that to that ooh, finding that vibration, adding your own vibration to a shape, change its meaning, change how you stay in it. Just even knowing that something has a middle that will flow into an end. Dove writes, "I acknowledge my status as a stranger. Inappropriate clothes, odd habits, out of sync with wasp and wren. I admit I don't know how to sit still or move without purpose. I prefer books to moonlight, statuary to trees. But this lawn has been leveled for looking. I kick off my sandals and walk its full green. The claims were mere muscle and fluids. My feet are the primitives here. As for the rest, the air now is a tonic of absence, bearing nothing but news of a breeze." You come to that ending point, that finding a vibration here. How does it feel when you can notice the beginning, the middle, the ending, and then shift into a pause, shift into some time of reflection, stillness? Gather the breath deeply and release. Inhale once again and let go. When ready, slowly begin to roll up. Help these legs back together. Again, you can bring feet to outer edges of the mat. Let the knees tick-tock side to side. Maybe you need some seated cat-cow. Finding any release here. And then when you're ready, finding the pause, finding the moment of stillness. Just noticing what has come up. When you're ready, slowly begin to come back. And our next shape is going to be shoelace. So I always like to have something underneath me. If you want, you can fold a blanket really tight into a small square. You can take a block or the books. So this is that one where I'll give you options. Don't start throwing things through the screen at me. So you can start in tabletop. You'll bring the right knee behind the left to begin with. And then work your way back. Again, I like to have the support of something to sit up on, and then you can fold forward. For some people, this is still going to be way too much. You can do this on your back. Where you'll come onto your back and you'll cross your shins. So this is where you could take a belt or a strap or a towel. If you don't have any of those, you could just put some weight. You could pull on the feet, you could put some weight on the shins. And you'll still get into those hips ever so slightly, or what feels like plenty. And if you want, if you're seated, you can fold forward. So finding whatever feels okay for you. And again, finding this with the idea of that beginning. So gather the breath deeply and release. Inhale once again and just let go. Can you bring in that sound, that vibration, that beginning of your om? Maybe you were just humming while I was oming. What does it feel like if you add a little vibration to your space, to your shape, to your being and your energy? Rumi writes, love comes with a knife, not some shy question, and not with fears for its reputation. Love is a madman working his wild seams, tearing off his clothes, running through the mountains, drinking poison and quietly choosing annihilation. There are love stories and there is obliteration into love. You've been walking the ocean's edge, holding up your robes to keep them dry. You must dive naked under and deeper under, 1,000 times deeper. Love flows down. The ground submits to the sky and suffers what comes. Tell me, is the earth worse for giving in like that? Don't put blankets over the drum. Open completely. You move into your middle place, finding that middle vibration, going into that ooh. Again, does it change things knowing that there's that beginning, middle, and end, and a point of stillness? And you allow yourself to know that things can shift and change in that way. Anxiety is secretive. He does not trust anyone, not even his friends. Worry, terror, doubt, and panic. He has a way of glomming onto your skin like smog, and then you feel unclean. He likes to visit me late at night when I am alone and exhausted. I have never slept with him, but he kissed me on the forehead once, and I had a headache for 2 years. He is sure a nuisance to get out of the house. He has no respect for locks or curtains or doors. Speak from experience. It takes cunning to get rid of him. A combination of anger, humor, and self-respect. A bath helps too. He does not like to get wet. As a last resort, if you are not near a bathtub, wet your face with tears. And finding that end sound, that going from there into your own pause, your own place of vibrational stillness. Gather the breath deeply and release. Inhale once again and let go. If you're seated, slowly rising up, you're folded forward, and then you could tip forward and release the legs. Maybe you find a child's pose, maybe a table and some cat-cow. If you're on the earth, release the bind, hug the knees in and release, hug the knees in and release. You can make circles on your sacrum 3 times in one direction, 3 times in the other. Finding any physical release that works for you coming out of this shape. And we'll take 3 rounds of breath before we come to the other side. Inhale, exhale for 1. Inhale, exhale for 2. Taking that last round. And then we're having the fun of coming to the other side. So each side will feel slightly different or maybe radically different. So if you were in the seated position, the left knee is coming behind the right, and you're walking yourself back. If you want something underneath your seat, feel free. And then you can have the blanket, the books, the blocks. If you're on your back, that left shin is going over the right. You're either pressing down on the shins, you're grabbing towards the feet, or you're bringing a strap around the shins to help weight it down. A strap or a belt. And if you're in the seated, invitation to fold forward. Gather the breath deeply. And release. Inhale once again and let go. Again, entering through that Om, that Ah as we begin. Maybe finding some vibration through sensation that you feel. Allowing yourself to connect even beyond these edges of your physical being. Maybe through that energetic vibration. For whatever pain lies beneath your blanket of sorrows, or the flaws you have learned to conceal just to make it through the day, it's okay to grieve the loss of things that will never be the same again. And this mind of yours that has pulled you back to the worst of things is the same mind that is capable of remembering the better things. The sound of green leaves in the spring, the sight of rain running along the street, the way laughter can rattle a room. Years later, those senses still find you. They are more than memories. They are woven in the layers of your heart, not hidden by a blanket of sorrows, never replaced, never torn apart. Morgan Harper Nichols. So finding that midpoint from that beginning vibration, something that's in the center for you. You bring awareness to that idea of a beginning, a middle, an end, a place of recollection. What does that change where you are? Does it change what you feel and your relationship to that sensation? My visits to clarity are soothing now. It never tells me what to think or feel or do, but shows me how to find out what I need to know. It's not always like this. I used to visit other people who visited him. Finally, I summoned the courage to call on him myself. I still remember the first time I went to see him. Was I surprised? He lives on a hill in a little house surrounded by wild roses. I went in the living room and sat down in a comfortable chair by the fireplace. There were topographical maps on the walls, and the room was full of stuff, musical instruments and telescopes and globes, geodes and crystals, and old Italian tarot decks, two small cats. When I left, he presented me with a sketchbook and told me to draw the same thing every day until the drawing started to speak to me. J. Ruth Gendler. Finding that final sound, that final vibration, and then moving into your own pause. Gather the breath deep and release. Inhale once again and let go. You're seated, beginning to come out of the forward fold, and then maybe tipping forward back into table to untwist the legs. Finding any type of shape that you need, maybe a cat-cow, maybe a downward dog. You're on your back, releasing the bind. Hug the knees into the chest and release. Hug the knees into the chest and release. Make those circles in the sacrum. So finding the movement that you need here. We're taking a longer pause. Finding whatever that needs to be. And then when you're ready, finding some stillness. Just noticing what has come up for you. Notice without judgment, allowing it to wash over you and continue on. Slowly begin to come back. Find our next shape, which will be praying mantis. So the two stacks of books can be at the front of the mat. They should be the same height at this point. So if they're different heights, try to even them out. You can have them, they don't have to be parallel, they can be slightly diagonal to one another. So different ways for praying mantis. Hips can go over the knees. We place the elbows and the rest of the forearm on the stack of the book. You can place hands in prayer hands and allow the thumbs to come back to the neck. So allowing the chest to open to the earth. You can do child's pose legs and still have the arms resting on the blocks or the books. Again, allowing the chest to go towards the earth, opening underneath the armpits. And you can also do Anahata Asana, puppy pose, where the arms come out long away from you. You can place the books or a block underneath your forehead or your chin as you bring yourself down to the earth, hips still over those knees. So finding any type of accessible variation here. So you're going to feel something underneath the armpits. You're going to feel something across the chest. Often what people ask is where are you supposed to feel that sensation? Gather the breath deeply and release. Inhale once again and just let go. Coming back to that beginning place, bringing in that vibration of the ah as you settle in here. Morgan Harper Nichols writes, "When songs rise within me, I will sing them. Even when I am tired, weary, and exhausted, I will trust these melodies are more than melodies. They are grace-filled cadences to remind my soul through my aching. There is a peace to keep me steady, a balm for my wounds." Ready, finding that middle place, moving that ooh. Again, does having vibration and connecting with your energy shift being in the shape, shift what you notice within yourself and outside your physical edges. Forgiveness is a strong woman, tender and earthy and direct. Since her children have left home, she has embarked on an extended walking tour, visiting ruins and old monuments, bathing in rivers and hot springs, traveling through the small towns and large pulsing cities, tracing the current of sorrow under the stories she hears. Sometimes the city authorities and officials don't want her within their gates. If the people want her there enough, she always manages to find a way inside. Forgiveness brings gifts wherever she goes, simple ones, a three-stranded twig with leaves turning yellow, a belt she wove on an ankle loom, a little song that grows inside you and changes everything. She brought me a silver ring from the south with a pale stone, pink with a hint of brown. When I had asthma, she taught me how to breathe. J. Ruth Kenley. When you move to your you find that level of vibration that shifts you from full sensation maybe to something different, maybe just knowing that there's an end point. And then when you're ready, finding that moment of stillness, of silence, of pause. Gather the breath deeply and release. Inhaling once again and let go. Releasing the arms, releasing the shape. Maybe you find a child's pose. Maybe you find some cat-cow. Maybe you need a different shape, a downward dog, a cobra. So anything at all. Maybe you even need a gentle twist side to side. So finding your release. And then when you're done, finding that moment of stillness. Just notice. Notice without judgment. Just come to visit. And then slowly come back. We're going to make our way onto our back. So grabbing either one stack of books, one block. We're going to find our bridge pose. So have the books or block near you as you come down onto your back, and anything else that you want to have for when we set up for final rest. Feet come to the earth. You'll lift those hips, bringing the book or the block underneath you. And then coming down on your sacrum, that's not the fleshy part of your tush or the curve of the low back. Palms face up. Invitation to try extending the legs long on the earth. This usually feels better the higher the books are or the block. And picking from either having the feet on the earth with the knees bent or the feet and the legs going long. So finding your bridge. Gather the breath deeply. And release. Inhale once again. And let go. Irene McKinney writes, you put yourself through everything you could think of deliberately. Though at the time it just seemed to happen. You pitched and twisted, tripped and grimaced. You've run after and been pursued. You've been ugly and frightened and murderous and dull. Now you lie on your back with your palms turned up and say, I give it up. Whatever falls out of my hands falls out of my hands. My eyelids slip down and my mouth falls open. Whoever cares can go on caring. Someone will step into place and take it over. I do not care. Finally, my back is lying exactly on the ground with no kinks. The loops are all unwound. Gather the breath deeply and release. Inhale once again and let go. Bring the feet to the earth, press the feet down as you lift the hips up, removing anything that's underneath the sacrum, and then allow yourself to come down, upper back, middle back, lower back, and then hug the knees into the chest and release. Hug the knees into the chest and release. Make circles on the sacrum 3 times in one direction and then 3 times on the other. If this sensation is divine, of course, feel free to continue to do this. When ready, hug the knees back into the chest. Allow the knees to fall over to the right, arms open in a T or cactus, and look to the left. So whatever you're doing, knees go in one direction, your gaze goes in the opposite direction. If a twist is not for you, feel free to just plant the feet on the earth and have the knees bent and pause. Take an inhale. Just release it out. Allow the place within that feels deep sensation to begin to soften a little more. Where do you still feel tight and bound? Take a final round of breath this side. And ready, gently bring the knees back up to center. Hug them in and release. Hug them in and release. Hug them in once again and allow them to fall to the other side. Arms open in the T or cactus, looking in the opposite direction of the knees. Again, if a twist is not for you, just allow the knees to remain towards the sky and cross. Take that deep inhale. Release it out. Where else do you feel the sensation? Where else can you continue to soften? Taking a final round of breath this side. Inhaling and release. When ready, bring the knees back to center. Hug them in and release. Hug them in and release. Invitation for any final movements that you need that will allow you to settle down into final rest, Savasana. Feel free to place the legs directly on the wall for legs up the wall for Shavasana. You could bring soles of feet together, let the knees fall out to the floor for cobbler. You could bring feet to the outer edges of the mat and let the knees knock in for support, or legs could go long and cover up with a blanket. You can place something under the knees for support, anything at all that feels good that will allow you to just completely settle in. And find a breath. Take that deep inhale. Open the mouth and just let it all out. Let the brows soften. Let the eyes be heavy. Wiggle the bottom jaw back and forth. Release any final tension here. Tongue is heavy, mouth relaxed. If you're having a thought, allow it to pass. Another one comes in, just let it go. Enjoy these final moments, and I will call you back. Slowly begin to come back, bringing breath back into your beautiful body, joining the spirit with the physical, wiggling fingers and toes, nodding head side to side, bringing the arms overhead for a morning stretch to bring the body back. And ready, hug the knees into the chest, rolling over onto the right and pausing. A place of beginnings, knowing all things from this moment forward are possible. And ready, coming back up to seated with closed eyes or soft gaze, reclosing them once there, taking your time, no rush. And then once here, just pausing, noticing. Hopefully we filled what was empty and emptied what was full. Gathering hands at heart center, palms pressed together. We're going to find our Om once again. So we'll take just a round of regular breath and then we'll inhale for Om. So taking that inhale, let it go. Inhale for Om. Coming back to intention, breathing it through this heart space, take an inhale. Open up the mouth and release, allowing it to fly off to the universe, knowing it will be heard. It's an honor and privilege to practice with you this evening. We bow our head to our hearts. Together we say, Namaste. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. If you joined virtually and watched the recording, thank you for being part of our community. Until next time, I'm going to pause the recording.